Good morning, everyone, and thank you for coming to Equalize, where we hope that you guys will join our discussions about changing and shaping the future of music education in Lancashire. My name is Rachel and I work for More Music, and we're a music education charity based in Morecambe. And should we quickly introduce our team? The other people that are here with us today are Jack, Aaron, Ewan,
hello,
Bernie, and Ben.
hello.
So Equalize is our new strand of our youth voice programme Amplify that's been running since 2018, and I'm going to do a little bit of an explanation about that in a minute, just to go through how we've got to where we are today. But first I'm going to ask Ben to talk a little bit about the Music Hub, because this is a Music Hub project of which More Music are one of the key partners. So thank you.
Good morning, everyone. In 2012, music education hubs were set up around the country. Music education hubs are funded by the Department for Education, and the funding comes through the Arts Council England. The aim of hubs is basically to try to improve music education and musical opportunities around the county, in our case in Lancashire obviously. Music education hubs are concepts, they're not organisations. Organisations are part of hubs, but hubs themselves aren't an organisation. The organisations involved in Lancashire's Music Education Hub are Lancashire Music Service, who Bernie and I and Ewan work with. Also More Music, who Rachel has introduced, a music tech company called Charanga. So Lancashire Music Service are the lead partner for the Music Education Hub, and More Music and Charanga are also partners in the hub. So basically the hub exists to try to improve musical opportunities. It provides support and resources for teachers in schools, and supports things like this, where we're trying to get information from young people about how we can improve those opportunities in schools around the county. Hope that makes sense.
Thank you, Ben. We think that your voices are really important in terms of music education, which is why Amplify was created or conceived, and it's gone through a number of phases to get to where we are today. So the phase one was that we got a group of young people from across Lancashire together, and they came up with like a manifesto of what they, kind of statements about what they believed music education should be. So accessible, equal, relevant to young people that are accessing it. And they took that, they kind of talked at national conferences in front of loads of music education hubs, like 500 people from music education hubs. It was quite controversial. It's very exciting. And then they created a survey, so we did a piece of research and we surveyed 400 young people and teachers from across Lancashire about their opinions of their music education. And out of that, we created a report with 4 key areas, which we're going to talk about today. And then COVID hit, so we were going to take that on tour. COVID hit and everything went online. And so we then, in phase 3, I think, commissioned 4 young people to create some content, some online content based around these areas of discussion. So Aaron was one of these people. And you'll get to see the content today, or bits of that. So there were a few podcasts created, Aaron made a music video, and there was like a presentation with some provocations that you'll see today. Then we did a conference here in November with people from strategic areas of music education. So there was Music Hub representations here, people from youth music, and they discussed the areas that they thought needed to change. But the intention of that was that it was going to be with you guys, with the schools. So we're doing it again. So we're on tour this week. So today we're in Burnley. Tomorrow we're going to do the same thing in Preston. And then on Friday we are in Lancaster. And hopefully we gather all your ideas about how you think music education should be shaped in the future. Okay, I'm going to hand over to Aaron and Jack now.
Burnley Youth Theatre, make some noise! Well, I know it's 10 o'clock in the morning. Burnley Youth Theatre, make some noise! That's what we like. That's what this event is about. It's about you having a voice, making some noise, and you're probably thinking, I'm just a student. What do my opinions about music education mean? Everything. Because the smallest voices are the loudest through a megaphone. And the things you say today here won't just change your music education, they could change the music education of generations to come. So no, you can't make your music lessons raves. But anyway, I'm Aaron. I'm a creative artist and singer-songwriter. To my left is the beautiful Jack. He's from More Music. And he's going to tell you a bit more about what you're going to be doing today.
So today, I've got my own, don't worry. I'm from More Music. I came through music education, mainly not being able to learn properly from theory and things like that, so other options were the way to go for me. So we're going to be talking about a few different provocations today, just to hear what you think about all the different things, and sort of get your opinion to see what we can change. So we're going to be talking about the averageness of music education. We're going to be talking about what there is and what there should be. We're going to be talking about IRL versus URL, so learning in person versus learning online, which is something we've all had to adapt to with COVID, and career paths in music and how those are presented to you and sort of how you learn about them, basically. So, yeah, on to the first provocation.
Brilliant. This is averageness. So, as Rachel said, back in, was it 2019, we did a survey of 400 students, and they said that on a scale of 1 being bad and then 5 being awesome, 50% of them said that they thought their music education was average or below. So, I think Caitlin, one of the other content creators, produced a podcast where she spoke to different music professionals about how they thought their music education was. Okie dokes, you've heard what the professionals have had to say. Now it's time for you to discuss it. So, on your tables, I want you to discuss how average you thought or you think your music education is and how it can be made better. You've got 20 minutes or around that. Away you go.
And we will be taking feedback afterwards, just one thing from each table.
Okie dokie, Jones, let's feedback.
Cool, so Aaron's going to come around to your tables, and facilitators, if you can tell us maybe one thing, like a common through line, or the biggest thing you've heard from the students on your table, and we'll write that down.
Okay, so one of the things, obviously, this group are really passionate about music, and one of the things that they felt that they need was just, or that they wanted at least, was more practical time to really kind of dig into those skills and really start developing as practical musicians. And then kind of where the discussion took us from there is kind of where it often goes, is that in order to fulfil that, what they want is more time on the timetable at the expense of English and history and science, according to this group. But certainly they would like maybe a more fluid timetable, so at certain crunch points of the year, you know, if they've got deadlines looming or performances coming up, that they can suddenly spend more time on music. And then off the back of that, more space, more equipment, more resources, specialist teachers. You know, music is like a lot of other subjects in that, you know, if you look at an umbrella heading like science, under science, you know, you've got biology and you've got chemistry and you've got physics, and all of those are very kind of specialist subject areas. And at a lot of schools, you will have your biology teacher, your chemistry teacher, your physics teacher. Music is just as broad as that. There is so many different areas that we talk about when we talk about music, and especially for you guys, if you're doing RSL, you know that, you know, the number of different units you can look at is vast. You know, you could do everything from music theory through to performance, through to live sound engineering, through to music for media. And the issue that a lot of schools have is that often you have one teacher trying to cover all of those very niche specialist areas. So the one thing that we were talking about, and these guys were saying, would be it'd be great to have specialist teachers who, you know, had sort of vast industrial experience, in these different areas, you know, so that they can really explore deeply with you, rather than, you know, one teacher who's kind of spread really thinly across everything. So that's what we've got on our to-do list.
Thank you very much. Next table, please.
Yeah, a lot of the things that we were talking about were quite similar, really. So the impression that I got from the guys on our table really was that, you know, music was good in their school, it was well supported, but there can always be better funding for bigger, better facilities and practice spaces. We talked quite a bit about the kind of content of the course as well, and we wondered whether some of the bigger written tasks could be broken down into smaller, more manageable tasks, and whether this might be quite controversial really, but whether they could scrap the word count for those kind of options. And basically we were just talking about increased space and increased capacity.
Yeah, we had some really interesting discussions, and just having a quick look. We started off talking about primary school music making, and everyone had sort of different opportunities in terms of what they could do at primary school, but it came down to that there wasn't much going on in your primary schools in terms of music. There was sort of an offer in year 4, but then there was no options to carry on after that time. And that in that year 4 opportunity, there wasn't a chance for you to have as much individuality, that was the word we used, in terms of the instrument choice that you got, and also the music that you were learning as part of those lessons. And then we started talking about secondary music, and Miss Buckle, you'll be thrilled to know they love the music at in your school. I think it's the highlight of their week, they've all said. So, which is great, and the part of the key to that for them all was that they had a lot more opportunity for individual performances and performing in bands and performing as a group, which they love. They don't quite love the theory side as much, but they do understand that they have to learn the theory in order to improve as musicians. So that's sort of some of the topics we were talking about.
All right, now we're moving on to what there is and what there should be.
Cool, I'll just talk a little bit about that. So, you know, in schools we learn about a wide range of genres and a wide range of cultural music as well. But what to you do you think could be represented better? And do you have free access to studio equipment, to instruments during your break times, during after school? Are there things like that that you wish could be improved for you, and just to build in better how you access music and study it in a way that caters to you and your interests? So we're going to listen to a song by Erin now. Enjoy. Cool, so we've got some statistics up there if you want to look to those to refer to while you're doing some discussions. But yeah, you've got 20 minutes again, so get to it. Thank you. Hi everyone, if you can wrap up your discussions now and we'll take some feedback. Aaron, if you want to go around to one of the tables that seems like they're finished.
We'll go anti-clockwise this time.
We'll go anti-clockwise.
So we talked about what opportunities there are in the school at the minute for making music, what there should be. Reflected on our table was more about opportunities for playing together, performing, particularly a space to jam with friends, we said, but also studio time as well. So having the opportunity to record as a band and learn how the equipment works, how the software works, and mic placement and all that sort of stuff. They said bring back AG radio, because the radio was on.
I am on it. We had our first session last Friday.
And potentially more contemporary music, more modern music, maybe at Key Stage 3, so year 7 and 8.
Hi, so we talked quite a bit about getting help in terms of future careers and jobs in music, things like sound engineering and stage fright techniques, and lots of really practical things we talked about. We had a really classic quote about in school that were taught about the insides of an atom, but not how to make a career from music or whatever you're particularly interested in. We talked a lot about stereotypes as well, of people who play instruments or are interested in different genres of music, and how that can be quite difficult to deal with at times. And we also kind of backtracked a little bit and talked about our various experiences at primary school, and also how in some classes, particularly before this course that we've embarked on at the moment, where there are pupils in those lessons who don't particularly want to do music, and that can be quite distracting and difficult at times.
Right, so we ended up just putting a big old wish list together of all the gear that these guys would like at school, and we even got as far as doing a plan of the music room and doing a big old interior design challenge on it.
It's 29 years to get it done up this time.
It's tough because there is a lot of overlap between the first thing we were looking at in terms of what needs to change and how it needs to change. We kind of found ourselves sort of veering back on that discussion a little bit. In terms of things that these guys would like to see change, there are like more opportunities. They suggested maybe an AG Got Talent competition. And then things like set times and days where you can access the music room or the music resources at least, but for that to be sort of on a regular basis, so that the young people can plan their time around that, knowing that every Wednesday at 4 o'clock the room's available till 3:30 or whatever it might be. Access to the sixth form studio was a biggie. I think that you guys kind of see what the sixth form crew we've got, and you'd sort of want in on it a little bit. And then just simple sort of, I say simple tweaks, expensive tweaks, but things like soundproofing, so that, if you are going to go and practice, you don't feel self-conscious that half the school are listening to you practicing or filming you on the phones or whatever it might be, so that you feel confident to practice without scrutiny. And then I can just read you the big old shopping list we've got of all the equipment that they like. Oh, and the final thing was access to computers with music-specific software on them as well.
All right, great. Now we're moving on to IRL versus URL, which is in real life versus online. Now, in the survey, we found that the most popular way to get involved was in school, but the second most popular way was online. Now, since this survey, there's been, just a bit of a pandemic, so that number is probably a lot higher now. Now, again, I've got an anecdote for this. You saw that video and the song, of course, out of school, but that was only because I was given a music software from school, and then it wasn't until lockdown that I was like, I want to start properly producing my own stuff, so I found this software that I had since about 2015, and I just started writing and learned how to use it. What's stopping you lot from doing that? So this is the More Media Collective. This was from the last event. All right, you know the drill by now. Discuss it. You've got 20 minutes. Do what you got to do.
Okay, everyone, so time for feedback. Just one thing again from each table. I'll write it down.
Okay, so we talked mainly about their experience of working remotely during lockdown, and then kind of moved on to music making from there. But a lot of the conversation was relevant for both. So one of the key things that they were saying, one of the issues with online was just the technical issues, the things that you guys have identified about digital poverty, and not everybody having access to resources in order to do that. And then in terms of sort of the advantages were just the convenience. So one of the things that Max was saying is that he prefers doing his piano lessons online because he's not getting in from school, rushing about, getting changed, getting in the car, driving over to his piano teachers. It's convenient to just kind of, log on for 30 minutes or an hour, however long the lessons are. So having that little bit more autonomy is a real bonus. But then when we compare that with real life, a disadvantage of working remotely that was identified was that if you're in the room with your music tutor, for example, they're much more observant. They can sort of see and hear the nuances of what's going on rather than what the camera and the microphone is allowing them to see. Also in real life, you've got access to equipment that you might not necessarily have at home, so you might not be lucky enough to have a drum kit in your own house that you could use. And then we just talked about music making sort of remotely versus in person. And just the fact that, you know, just technical issues like delays make communication a little bit awkward, people talking over each other. You know, if you're trying to demonstrate an idea or play an idea together, you know, just the delay in time kind of prohibits that from working. Whereas if we're sat in a room together, that's not even an issue worthy of considering. So, yeah, that was us.
Okay, so we said that essentially face-to-face is the best. We had a general agreement about that, but that some activities can still work really well online and also have advantages as well. So we talked about online lessons that work really well, similar to that group over there, that practice sessions in your own space at home could lead to potentially more concentration, less distractions. And Libby had recently done an audition online that had gone really well. So, you know, whilst, yeah, we do think that face-to-face is best, that, you know, there are some real pluses from some of our virtual activities.
Our table were pretty clear that I think the pandemic destroyed any love of online learning, particularly sort of logging into lessons where they sort of had their camera off and were in the sort of particularly first bit of the pandemic, potentially playing games on other tabs while those lessons were going on. So some of the advantages, that's why sort of following that, they very much prefer the real life option of making music together. Two key parts of that is the connection you get from being face to face. And also, a bit like what Carl said about communication, it's much easier to communicate on a face-to-face rather than through a screen.
I just wondered if there's any feedback from it. Yeah.
I'm alright, I'm a fog on anyway, it's fine. We really like real life. There's no way that you can be teaching in real life, because if there's a misconception, I used to hate when you used to go on your online classroom and there'd be no faces that you could respond to. I knew what were all really good. We did used to digress quite a lot onto like sweet topics, which is usually what happens. But there's nothing that you can in real life is that.
No.
Do you want to add anything to that?
Just, I think online does have its role in terms of like supporting and facilitating some of the technology and some of the programs we can use to help, but it doesn't replace, like say, having that classroom environment, like those dynamics face to face. It progresses in the better way going forward. And anything that we do online has really got to just support and go alongside rather than replace and be the main way.
Brilliant, thank you very much. Our next publication is about career paths. So we all know that about being a performer, songwriter or composer, that might be a prospective career, but do we get presented with, you know, in our school life, the other options like live music, production, events, all of the things that go into that, as well as like licensing music and publishing. So I guess we're talking about whether you're presented those ideas, whether you're given the opportunity to try and work in those environments, like the opportunity to get involved, or whether there are actually services and places that you can talk to that will give you information about how to develop into those careers. So we have another podcast to show you that we'll play now. You've got 20 minutes now to discuss about career paths and what you would like to see different.
So we had a good discussion about the music industry, and there's a lot of talk about actually not understanding what jobs there are in the music industry available. So just that there's no careers advice, or as part of their experience so far, that they didn't understand the different types of jobs that might be available in the music industry, even though 3 potentially out of 4 of the people on the table were interested in actually working in that industry in the future, and something they would potentially like to do. So we're very much talking about how they might be able to find that information out, whether that's on YouTube or on the internet, finding videos about the different roles that are available in the industry, and maybe at school if there was more opportunity to have some careers advice, more broadly, not just in the music industry, but that careers advice in general. And also potentially using, someone had the idea to use some of a drop-down day, I think for maybe a careers advice type day.
So we spent quite a bit of time looking at various roles within the music industry. We've made quite a long list. It's not a full list by any means, but we've got lots of different opportunities on there. And then talking about how to kind of make it better in a school setting. We talked about educating people on the various careers that are available, and educating people that success in the music industry isn't just down to luck. Again, a little bit like Ben's table said, we talked about school trips and different work experiences that could actually facilitate a working knowledge of what's available. I think generally speaking, most people on this table see their kind of work going forward, perhaps not solely being in the music industry, but something that would be something that was probably alongside their general working life.
We kind of did everything that you guys have done. We did a really simple exercise. First thing that we did is, just as a table, listed as many jobs that these guys could think of in the music industry, and looking at that list, did it look achievable? On the whole, it was no, not really. Then what we did is we kind of broke down different stages of, a musical career, and looked at some of the much broader jobs that were involved at that point. When we looked at that list, did that look achievable? Yeah, it did. And all we were doing there is just raising awareness of what the other opportunities are in the industry. So in terms of things that could be done, it could be visiting speakers, again, like a lot of you guys have mentioned, trips out into industry, meeting people, and obviously the last 2 years have absolutely limited the ability to do that. Or it may well be a selection of appropriate units, on the qualification that you're doing, maybe picking one that enables you to explore different areas of the music industry in different roles.
I think for us, we were talking about, just out of interest, how often do you log into Unifrog? And you're like, what's that?
As a show of hands,
Yeah.
from students who knows their Unifrog login.
So, there you go. So we were talking about how, just before the pandemic, we had quite a lot of, I'm really big on this in the sixth form as well, getting lots of visitors coming in, and you're the same, aren't you, Sarah? And we tried to get you to come into those, but that's been a little tricky over the last 2 years to sort. But we were talking about what your thoughts would be on this, about having specific speakers that come in who are within that industry, so pick a specific industry, and they come in to talk to you about their career. So you might not know that you could be part of a military band, for example, that we're talking about, or how you could be as a scientist by discovering psychoacoustics or acoustics in physics. So there's like we were talking about how Mr. Guest, his degree is in sound engineering, but he's a science teacher, and he found his love for physics through music, and it's things like that. But we know, as inspiring as we are, it's nice to hear from other practitioners, other career professionals. That's what I'm after. Thank you. In the industry, is that something that would you be interested in hearing for that? I love that you're all nodding. Yeah, I'll take that again. Do you want to add anything? I'm just holding the microphone.
Right, well, that's it from me and Jack. We're going to be doing your feedback of the event outside. We're going to be filming that if you want to catch us after. But we're going to pass over to Rachel, who's going to explain to you about the Amplify board.
One more thing before that. If you want to look at all of the content we have shown you today and the full versions of it, it's all available on the Lancashire Music Service YouTube and website. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much for all your input and ideas for today. If you have, like Ewan says, if you have any more ideas or anything you'd like to say, we're going to do a little bit of vox pop filming outside. No pressure, but it'd be really, really cool if you've got anything to share. Does anyone have any more kind of ideas or burning things they want to say before I tell you about the Amplify board, which is our next stage? We're going to collate everyone's feedback and ideas over this week. We're going to put them all together, and then we'll put them as we said at the start. We're going to put them to the hub to try and make some of these changes, and hopefully, we'll come back to you. Amplify and Equalize is not ending here. Our next stage is that we're trying to recruit for our youth board for Amplify. The board will be involved in taking some of these decisions and your ideas further and trying to make sure that they happen so that the kind of strategic hub members will become answerable to you, and you can demand these changes to be made. You can either nominate yourselves if you're interested, and we've got these little flyers on the table. So all you need to do is pop your name and your email address on there. Or teachers, if no one nominates themselves, you could nominate 2 of your students. But there's no restriction on numbers. So if you want to get involved with more discussions about music education and try and take all these ideas further, then sign up here on these little sheets of paper. Or there is a link that will be on the website. It's not on here. It'll be on our website, or we could email round to schools where you can just sign up online. And the next stage will be that there'll be a kind of away day at County Hall, I believe, after Easter, where we'll get together. You'll get to share your ideas. You'll get to meet some more of the hub team, and we'll make a plan for how it's going to go forward. Yes.
So what actually is the board thing? What? I'm a bit confused, sorry.
So the board will be a group of young people of your age who will form out of these events. They're interested in making changes and carrying on these ideas. And you'll be able to get involved in all sorts of things. So you'll get to go and speak directly with the hub board, the strategic team, put on events if you want. I think there's some kind of funding for doing some projects. It's taking your ideas to the next stage.
So trying to change the curriculum?
Yes, yeah, trying to change. So you're shaping it's the next stage of shaping music education. The away day will be not in school time. In the past, we've taken people to national conferences. So the original Amplify group went and spoke at a national conference, and that was a day out of school. But I can't promise that. But if you're interested, if you pop your name and your email address on these bits of paper, then we'll collect those in. And it would be great to have you on our board. Thank you all for coming. If you want to go and do a vox pop with Ewan and Aaron, there's a little banner as you leave. Should we give yourselves a round of applause? Brilliant audience.
Yeah, really good.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. I feel like it's helped
It was a
us
good experience for us.
learn about career paths to music.
And I hope we've helped kids for the future.
Yeah, it's motivated me to do music more.
Yeah.
Amazing.
You now want to make a career out of it.
What kind of things? What kind of things do you want to do with your music then?
Watch more live performances.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talk to more experienced people.
Next one.
Learn more about what we do with our careers instead of just analysing songs and things like that.
What the music industry is all about. I'm not really too sure what it is.
all the different jobs you can take from music GCSE and A level and what career path you can take.
It helped us students expand on knowledge on music because the different choices now that I know, so then I could actually like know more. And, like,
Cool.
Yeah.
So what's your takeaway from today? What will you leave here thinking? I'm buzzing about this.
I'm going to learn that the impacts that it has from what instruments, what education we have, and it's going to help me in the future.
The takeaways are that the students feel the same as us, that they want more funding, they want more space to be able to rehearse and be creative, and that's, for me, I think that's the main thing, and that it was a really safe space for them to discuss that.